Hi, I'm Jeannie with Fuller Fabrics. Today I want to show you a quilt and how to make it. It's called the 9-patch. It's something that I came up with for my niece Emily. She picked these fabrics from my personal stash and saw a quilt similar to this and said, well, I want one like that. So this is what I came up with. It's really just 9 patches alternated. I actually cut the solid fabrics into 9 patches and then alternated them. Now this one is actually quite big. I believe it ended up being 63 by 78. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by, I believe it was by 12, going the long way. I also made out of the scraps of the pieces this border. It ended up being a 5-inch border. I've got 1.5 strips, 1.5-inch strips, and on the either side 2.5-inch strips. So once you put those all together, it will make you a 5-inch border. And then I used the fabric that she liked, this little Saturn fabric, for the binding. I also made this quilt in another layout using whites and batiks. One moment, I'll show you that. Now this one right here, I used batiks. I used a fat quarter. You can use yardage, you can use fat quarters. You could probably even get it enough out of a layer cake if you wanted. Now this one, I did still use the patches of 9 here, but I just made these solid. It worked up way quicker. So if that's what you're going for, you can do it either way. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you quickly how we came up with this. It's actually quite easy. You want to take your fabric, whether it's a fat quarter or it's prints, different prints. You can use fabric you can cut out. Now what you're going to do is cut out 6.5-inch squares. Let me make sure these are 6.5 inches. And then it looks like they are. And then you're just going to take them this way and cut out 6.5 inches, and that's going to make, now I like to use a small ruler when I'm cutting. I do have the long ruler for the long cuts. And then you're just going to make the 9 patches to go in between your 6.5-inch strips. So what I did was lay out my solids, made sure I had them dispersed evenly of the color, and I laid them on, put them on a wall. I used a piece of batting on the wall. I put them on the wall, and then I started creating the 9 patches to go in between them. It helped me to see where I was at all times. And then I would just sew the strips together, so it came out pretty quickly, and it kept me on track. I have a tendency to lose my place, so anything that I can do to help that is a plus. So you're just going to build these based on the fabrics that are around them. Now when you're at the top, that top one, it can be any color you want. If you've got an extra of one color, use that for the tops. But basically what I would do is set up my 5 whites, blacks, or whatever you're using. It could be bone cream. I think Christmas and maybe a cream bone color would be awesome. And then you just want to build it from whatever your fabrics are around it. So if we had this right here, and this was your top, now you would want one of these here, one of these, this one. And the top one really could be any color that you wanted. So then we'll go do that. And that would make, you know, part of your first row and your second row. So you really kind of need to know what's around it before you can set up to make that. Now we'll go over here to the sewing machine. And I like to sew these and just kind of keep them going. And I'll use a little strip here to get me going here. Now, accurate cutting is very important because you need these 9 patches to match the 6.5 inch blocks that you've made. And I like to chain piece whenever I can. Just remove that and start it over. That way I don't end up with a lot of extra on my pieces here. And then you're just going to open these, flip them around. Come on. And then put your other one on the opposite side. This one will go on the opposite side of the red one here. The teaks are kind of hard to tell. I try to go with whichever seems to be the darker, more vibrant color. But if you can't tell, it really doesn't matter. It'll work either way at that point. And we'll use this little starter strip. Alright, so we're going to set this up the way it should look. And we'll turn it around. Now you want these to point all in the same direction. These to go the opposite, so right to the left, and then we'll go to the right at the bottom. To the right, and then they'll nest when we go to sew them together. So if they're nesting, see if you can see this, but if they're nesting together, that will create a good seam. So it'll, if you butt them up well, they'll line up, and your intersections will match quite nicely. I'll keep these going in the correct direction here. Put this on. Again, you want to get it started and make sure these nest. And once you do that, this over here, and we will do a little bit of pressing. And I like to press from the back, everything going gently in the right direction and get it all laying down. Then once we make sure that our block is nice and straight, then we can give it just a little bit here of steam. Now that is going to make, get some of this out of the way, and that is going to make one that is actually here, and this one will do, and it's going to go down here. And this one will go here and here. And let's see, we got this one to go there. So that's really the way it's going to go. And then you will just alternate. So I've got one here that's already sewn together, and you just keep alternating. You know, make sure your blocks are matching, and you're going to make rows. Once you've got your rows, then you're going to put your rows together. And it's really, really, really simple. It's just the 2 blocks. Now for the for your binding, your borders, you're actually going to take your 6.5 inch pieces, put them together end to end, and sandwich them between whatever your border color is going to be. So it can be the white, it can be the black, but it really is just sandwiching those strips between. Let's see if I've got some strips here. See what size this is and see what I can get out of here for a few strips. See if I have 6.5. These are, we'll go 6.5 here. And these I want, about to cut them the wrong size. Measure twice, cut once, save you a lot of grief. And then you'll just take these and sew them end to end. It got me. This one tends to like to come unthreaded a lot on me. That's why I use that starter strip, because I use the automatic cutter, and when you do that, you can sometimes make it where it cuts it so short that it will unthread it when you do the automatic cutter, and then if you don't use your little starter strip. So get that going, and then you're basically just going to do these end to end. When you've done them end to end, just press them open. To the side, I'm sorry. You have to bear with me on this first video. I'm learning as I go. And then you're just going to take your pieces of white and sew them on either end, and that's going to give you your binding. Now I did all 36 strips that I needed for the binding. I sewed them all end to end, and then I came back once I had my 36 and I had them pressed to the side. I then came back with my white and sewed all the way down on one side, turned it around and sewed all the way down on the other. Then of course you want to press it. Now I pressed mine both going in. You can press to one side if you want. It really doesn't matter which way you press it, but you definitely want to give it a good press. Now we do have this pattern on our site for this one. This one ended up being 51.5 by 64. I have not put the binding backing on this one. I have not sandwiched it. I am thinking about using this top as a tutorial for sandwiching and the binding tutorial. If that's something that would be interesting to you, then let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to do that. So that's why this one is not completed. Once you've got your borders, you're going to add your borders. Now, fabric, you're going to need 3 yards for your prints, 2 yards of your white, and that's going to take care of your borders as well. 4.5 yards for your backing, and a 1/2 yard, maybe 3/4 of a yard for your binding. Now, I do have my binding set up with what I'm going to do for mine for this one. And I've got 2.5 inch strips here of all the different colors that I used in this quilt. And that's what I'm going to use. I'll sew them end to end, fold them in half, and I'll use that to make my binding. So I won't be going off of one print like I did with this one, but I will actually have a scrappy binding where I've used 2.5 inch. So you could actually use jelly strips, 2.5 inch strips, jelly rolls if you would like, that's fine too. However you want to get it. But if you do choose to make your block a solid block, you cannot use jelly rolls to do that. You will have to use a fat quarter, a layer cake, or yardage. But if you choose to make both blocks 9 patches, you really could use, and if you want to get really scrappy, you could use jelly rolls. You could also use the mini charms. We have those on the site if you're interested. If you don't want to cut all of those, I believe it was 155 of the white. So if you're not into cutting all of those 2.5 inch squares, by all means, you can actually use the little charm packs where they're pre-cut for you. As far as the pattern, it comes in a PDF form, and you'll see that it'll be under free patterns on my website. Check out the website. We'd appreciate that. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, tell me in the comments why, so I can make it better. Want this to be something that helps you, not, makes you crazy watching it. So bear with me. This is my first video. Check out fullerfabrics.com. We'd appreciate that. If you subscribe to our newsletter while you're on the site, you'll get a 15% off coupon towards your first order. It'll also put you on our email list so that you get emails when we have new videos, when we add new products, because we're new and we are adding products as quickly as we're able to. If you see something, if there's something you'd like us to have on the site, shoot me an email at info down below, info@fullerfabrics.com. And I guess that's the end of the first video, and I hope you like it. If you want to make it yourself, email me if you do make it. I'd love to put it up on in one of our newsletters. I'd like to see what you come up with for colors. It's very versatile. It's very easy, and best of all, it's a free pattern. So check it out. Check us out. And thank you for watching. And until next time, happy quilting.